All right. Chef Brian is a celebrated figure in Texas cuisine, known for his role in shaping San Antonio's culinary scene. A former senior instructor at the Culinary Institute of America, he's led teams to victory in competitive barbecue challenges and served as a judge for the Great American Seafood Cook-Off. Chef West co-founded the Texas Culinary Alliance and the Taste of the Republic Fiesta event. He now runs his consulting company, Chef Brian West Inc., helping restaurants evaluate their menus and operations while advocating for Texas culture through his Texas Culinary Manifesto. Chef Brian, the floor is yours.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having me out. This is awesome, and it's good to meet everybody and really getting exposed to Chow and what you guys are about. I think it's just amazing. I didn't even know anything was out there like this until I got exposed to it. So it's been really, really great. Um, talk a little bit about my journey in this industry. I've been in the industry for 32 years now. I started when I was 19. Um, I didn't realize it, but I wasn't really college bound in high school. I had dyslexia, and I really struggled in the academic side. But I had a great personality, loved being around people, and I just thought it was a natural fit to go out into the restaurant business. I had a lot of my teachers when my graduating year, so you're going to go straight to work, right, Brian? And there was no question that I was going to go to college or not. I was not going, so I was not college bound. But I found the restaurant business to kind of be a great place for me to I describe it. I'm sure you guys have a similar experience. What probably draws you in is it's like a giant Tetris game, and you can organize it, and things are coming at you, and it's great. It feels good to get that straight little line and drop four units down, but the game seems to get faster and faster, which can be a little problematic sometimes. But I did enjoy that. I liked a lot of things coming at me, a lot of different types of personalities that I was exposed to. But what I really enjoyed most of all, and I didn't realize about myself when I was young, was I really enjoyed hospitality. I just really liked serving people and making people have a good time. I started to realize that almost everybody that was in my section when I was waiting tables or bussing tables, they were out celebrating something or enjoying some fellowship with people, and I really liked being. I felt like I was a part of that. Um, as my career progressed, I moved to the kitchen side, and I started to get more and more into that. And then I eventually went to culinary school at the Art Institute, and I absolutely flourished. I was valedictorian. I took real college algebra that I didn't even know I could do, and I got an A in it. I took all sorts of food science classes and whatnot, and I think it was just mainly because I hit about 24 at the time, and I just kind of hit my stride and really what I wanted to do, and I felt like being a cook and being in the restaurant business and really just committing to it was what was going to be for me. I was very lucky to have a life partner. I've been with my wife since I was 19, which I guess in the restaurant business, let's see, we're knocking on the door at 24 years now. Well, oh no, my gosh, longer than that. And I guess in the restaurant business, that's like 10,000 years. But she's always been very supportive. We didn't have any children at the time, so I was really able to kind of fall in love with my work and really kind of commit myself to becoming a better cook every day. And I had that realization out of culinary school. Oh my God, I'm not a chef. I just realized that I learned enough about culinary arts to know that I don't know anything. And so you had a lot of veteran types, bullying you a little bit. And I was also in Texas, and being the white boy, all that stuff. Because, in Texas, a lot of the kitchens are Hispanics. And so trying to my wife happened to be Hispanic too. So I would kind of fit in, but in a way I would kind of stand out. And also having a culinary degree was sometimes looked upon as a negative in the field. They were like the school of hard knocks and things like that. So I dealt with a lot of that type of somewhat rejection and kind of being isolated a little bit with that. And but at the end of the day, I was fortunate to kind of make light of it and joke around with people and make friends and move through my career that way. One thing I do think is really interesting about the restaurant business is that how close you can get to when you're a line cook, especially how close you can get to someone. I'm working grill and you're working saute, and you're just rocking and rolling and just making it happen and just putting those dupes down, spiking all those dupes and just kicking ass. And you're starting to fall behind, and they come and help you out. And you get so incredibly close with someone. I've never been in the military, but I've heard people say that it's like that in the military. And then all of a sudden something happens and they quit or they get fired, and then they're gone out of your life forever. And it's really, really interesting. And you might see them years later and you pick up a little bit where you left up, but that little piece is kind of gone forever. And I always think that's kind of interesting. And that's something I get, one of the takeaways as a young line cook that I always strive thought about. Um, Later in life, I eventually got my dream, and that was to become sous chef, and that's what I was really focused on. And as I entered the world of management, the next big challenge was dealing with employees for the first time. And as being an employee, being the lack of a better word, the grunt or the Indian, and not being the chief, is you always think, well, when I get that shot, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and my walk-in's always going to look this way, and we're going to do the floors every single night without fail, and I'm not going to put up with that guy's attitude or that young lady's attitude or whatnot. And you realize that you've got to compromise all that because you're trying to keep the team motivated and show up the next day, and you realize you can't do it by yourself, so you can't be this hard knots person that's gonna come down on you like a ton of bricks with people because they might not come back the next day. My generation, when I entered it, that's where this was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it started moving from this, I'll put my foot up your ass and I will destroy you if you do not get this done, to where like, hey, how's your day? How are you feeling today? That type of thing. So it was a really difficult adjustment for me. Although much better because you don't walk to, you're not deep sixing steaks because you've overcooked the second one and you're just throwing it away so your chef doesn't scream at you because you've messed up the second one. But it was just a big challenge. And one of the big deals over the years is I started to really not care as much about myself, and I cared more about other people. And that was a little bit painful to go through. And I still loved hospitality and I still loved the customers. And so I would go out and talk to all the tables, and and sometimes you get a complaint or something, or a customer wouldn't be happy about something, or you'd walk up and say, hey, how was your dinner tonight? And they're like, I need some more tea. Well, let me go get you some more tea, and you go up, and it started to become I got into this because I loved people and I wanted to serve people and I wanted to be part of their lives and change something. And then you would get these rejection moments from your staff as well as your clients, and that became some painful step to go through. But over the years, I've circumvented that. I'm 53 now, and I can kind of look at my career holistically and kind of look at it more now as a journey. Um, I like to look at myself as someone that looks at the employees, and I really do care about them. I don't want to say it's a family because families usually accept any type of fault. I'm still guiding them and telling them what they're doing incorrectly, but I'm having to treat each individually very differently, which is hard. But it was a bit of a learning curve for me. But I've got there. I feel like I got there, and so now I run my own business. That was one thing I learned about myself is I would rather make half the money and be able to run my own business than work for somebody else. And not that because I'm too good for it, but the HR departments would get me down a little bit, and just corporate America got me down a little bit. Um, I did enjoy for a while. I was teaching at the CIA, and I was there for 4 years as a chef instructor, and I really enjoyed that for a while. But even that started to feel a little empty because I didn't have that hospitality piece. We have a CIA here in San Antonio, and I was an instructor there, and here in San Antonio, there was only 5 instructors. And so you eventually teach the entire degree like 3 or 4 times over. And so it started to feel a little empty for me. And so getting back out of the field actually was a big decision for me to leave that job because it was a cush job, you know, 40 hours a week. I thought my wife was going to leave me over that. She could not believe that I wanted to go back out in the industry, but I just missed it. And I missed the hospitality piece and I missed the action, and I don't regret it. It's been great, but it's definitely had its struggles and it's been up and down. So that's kind of been my journey, um, where I've kind of found myself now. Um, as far as where I'm going now is I do have a lot of catering that I run along with my consulting business. That's something interesting we could talk a little bit about too, is the consulting piece. I was on a show called Restaurant Impossible with Robert Irvine, and I was the chef, operations chef. So I would go and scout out the restaurant that Robert wanted to go to, and I'd scout all the competition, see what the story was there. I'd rewrite the menu because when Robert would walk in, he's the star. He wouldn't he wanted to see it for the first time. So all the back work would already be done. I'd already written the menu, costed out all the recipes, did the orders, everything was hitting the door. And then I would go in and we would train the staff intensely. And if you've seen the show, it's the same thing as Restaurant Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay. But we would go in and we would land at like 8 in the morning. He'd go in there and tell them how what a horrible job they're doing and how worthless they all are. And then he goes, but don't worry, I'm gonna fix you because I'm smart and you guys are dumb. And then they would stick me in the kitchen to go in there and try to fix it and with a plan. And the whole process would be this long process of like prep. And we would work for, I'd have the guys there at 8 in the morning, and then we'd probably leave at like 3 in the morning and say, all right, let's get back here about 7 o'clock, get some rest, get it back 7 in the morning, and then we'll, dinner service will be the following night. We'll relaunch the restaurant at around 8 o'clock or whenever the shots are ready. And then their sole mission would to be completely slam the kitchen so that Robert could come back there and scream at everybody, and then we would rally because of being screamed at, and then we would rally all of a sudden on TV and start really kicking ass and doing a great job and making the food and whatnot. So it was such an interesting experience, and I kind of saw it for what it was. And Robert Irvine, he's actually a very sweet man. He's English, so he's a little misunderstood, I think, because of that. But he definitely he definitely had that old guard look of, if you don't do this, I'm going to smash you into the ground and I'm going to let everybody watch it and they're all going to laugh at you. And he really would trigger that. And I'd see him do it to people all around. It was horrible. He never really did it to me. And I think it's because he was a Navy chef and I was an academic chef at this point. It was funny because being the horrible student that I was in high school, here I am as, an instructor from the CIA. And I think that was kind of where he would always think if we ever got in a conversation about hollandaise or something, that I might have an answer that he didn't have. And I don't think he was willing to go down that road, which we never did. But they would try to completely destroy us right when we would open, and they would hit us with about 100, 150 covers, and we would just get annihilated. But I learned this way of being able to handle that and, kind of get the restaurant prepped and get us to a position to where we were having 2-3 minute pickup times, because the menus, I would write them with just 5 or 6 items, and make them extremely efficient. And it really helped me grow as a cook and as a chef while I was on that experience. But I do remember coming back, once the show was over, and I ended up opening a little barbecue restaurant, or not a little, it was getting some partners and opening up a barbecue restaurant called Smoke. And I remember going into it with that attitude of like, how he treated the people around him, and then kind of reflecting on when I waited tables, for instance. I don't mean to jump around here, guys, but I'm just getting these thoughts. When I waited tables, the chefs in the restaurant, they would call us the slaves. They go, let the slaves do that. And they would throw things at you, or you one little mistake on a ticket, a handwritten ticket with my dyslexia. And I was just a bit, you were coming down like a ton of bricks. And I remember saying, I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to be the boss someday. And I'm never going to treat those waiters like that. And I have to say, I never did. When I run a front of the house team, I almost treat the wait staff a little better than the cooks, because I tell the cooks, I was like, look, we're the military back here. We're a pirate ship. This is what we do. It's hard. We get, it's hot and steamy back here, but we thrive on that type of energy. These guys are out there dealing directly with the clients. And I want those waiters to say, our chef's really talented, nice guy. I don't want him to say, oh, he's such a jerk back there and he's throwing things around and he makes me so scared. And I don't want to tell him about this problem I'm having. And I don't want to close that door with them. So I really learned how to kind of manage the two sides of the kitchen in that sense. This was all, though, everything that I'm telling you it was all through a trial of bumping my shins along the way, laying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, thinking deeply about, well, what can I do differently to make this thing better for me? It's one of those things. We talk a lot about the hours that it takes to do, and I know that's a big conversation right now on social media. There's a lot of people talking about the amount of hours it requires to be a chef or work in the restaurant, but in the front of the house, being a front of the house manager, anything like that, you're practically living there. And I think there's a path to minimizing that, but it does require a little bit of passion from the person. If you're doing this, you have to really enjoy it. If you're not enjoying this, I talk to young people all the time, and they're like, well, I'm thinking about being a chef. I'm like, well, why? Well, I really love to cook. Well, great. That's part of it. but you got to really understand what you're getting yourself into, and you got to really make peace with that. And that's something that I've been able to do, luckily. But at great cost. I mean, my wife will be the first to tell you, many a weddings I didn't go to, many a funerals I didn't go to. My lost my father 2 years ago, and I was committed to a catering event that it was my catering event, and I had to go to it. And I remember standing over his when he passed, and I kind of put my hand on his forehead, and then I kissed him, and then I called the guys and said, "Hey, can y'all pull the duck out and let's get that slacked out? We got to get ready to go." And I didn't feel bad about it because I love my dad. We were close, but I also felt this is what I have to do. I can't call these ladies and say I'm not going to come here and make your dinner. I can't do that. And maybe another person would. But it was just something that I felt like I needed to do. And of course, we had the funeral later and whatnot. But it's just it's really, really hard in this business if you want to do it well. And you want to take care of yourself, and you do. And I struggle with that, but you also want to take care of those guests, and you also don't want to let people down. And so it's really, really hard. It's a balancing act for me. And I think because of that, I'm a pretty heavy drinker. I don't know if I'm an alcoholic. I just took a break actually for 3 weeks. I just wanted to take a little break. I was just kind of not feeling it, and I haven't really felt like drinking since. But I might have a glass of wine tonight. We'll see. But I think that's a piece of it, kind of self medicating, if you will, and just trying to help take that edge off. Um, that's just it's a big part of it. Um, I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of elements to it that you really have to deal with, and when you're coming home at the end of the shift. And I'm sure you guys felt that, where you work this late shift, or maybe it's 11 o'clock because you're the chef. The chef. I usually try to run when I was the running hotels and things. That 8 to 11 shift was always my sweet spot. Get there around 8 in the morning, and then go to 11, and then it slowly got it to 10. But you come home and you think, oh, I'm just gonna hit the bed, but no, you go grab some fast food, pop open a beer, you're watching that late TV, and you're up till like 1 in the morning because you're just so wound up, and you can't just kind of come down with it. So, yeah, it's been hard. There are definitely elements to it that are hard. Today, I'm pretty happy with the way my schedule is. I like I said, I run my little catering company. I cook a lot more. I have a very small team. And I try to educate them whenever I can. My goal next year is I just got a nonprofit called West Point Culinary Institute, and I'm hoping to offer free scholarships for a 3 month program for people that are in that mid 20s that are wanting to go, that couldn't afford culinary school. Because I don't know if you've looked at culinary school. When I was at the CA, it was $100,000 to get an associate's degree, a 2-year degree, which is ridiculous. So I put pen and paper, and I've realized that I could do it for 10,000. I can get it done for 10 grand. And so my goal is to get restaurants and other institutions like maybe Cisco and things like that to donate money, and we could put together, and I could grab 14 students, and I could I have this space set up to where I could train them the CIA way, but boiled down, reduced down to that perfect demi-glace that's just all you really need to know to get your feet wet and to start getting going. So that's kind of my goal for next year, and I'm excited about that. So yeah. Um, let's see. I don't really, I don't know where else to keep going. I don't know if I have 15 minutes of time. I used to be a stand-up comedian when I was younger, and I always had that act where it's like it has to be 10 minutes of time where you got to do. And I don't know. I don't know if I have much more to say about all that. Do y'all have any questions or anything, or is it too early for that?
No, you're actually right at time. You're at 18 minutes. I will
Okay,
stop
perfect.
recording now. And